Hey, welcome back to the Sea Stories and Science Fiction podcast. I'm your host, Malcolm Torres, and today I want to talk to you about Stuart Turton's book, The Devil and the Dark Water. I saw this on the shelf at Barnes & Noble several months ago, and when I read the back cover, which says, "A murder on the high seas, a detective duo, a demon who may or may not exist," I was hooked right off the bat. I knew I was going to buy it and take it home and read it. But then, bonus points, because I opened up the book and right on the inside cover, you've got the ship, the Amsterdam, on which the story takes place, the wooden sailing ship. And you have all of the parts of the ship labeled. And then you've got this passenger list and the cabins that they're in. Plus you've got these rats running around here, and then this sort of very ominous looking eye with like a snake tail. Right there, I'm hooked. I'm reading this book. There's no doubt about it. Now, I will say that this book is not like light, popular fiction. It's not about a guy and a girl jetting off to Tahiti and getting involved in a murder mystery with their iPhones in hand. That's not the story. This is a story that takes place in the early 1600s, which is 400 years ago. And it takes place aboard a large sailing ship, and there are over 20 different characters that you've got to keep track of. There's about 30 years of history behind these characters, and their backstories are very complicated and interconnected. And there's also a whole bunch of like demonology and a little bit of like nautical kind of, shipboard type stuff that you've got to understand in order to appreciate it. So this book may not be for everybody, but me, I loved it. I thought it was awesome. There are two things that I would tell you about this book with no spoilers. One is the author. He's a great writer. You're reading this story and you're like, wow, this story is complicated. It is filled with like beautiful imagery, horror, crime, grisly murders, a little bit of passion, romance between some of the characters. There's a good bit of detective work, and it's all written like really well. And you're telling yourself like, wow, this story is really complicated. This story is like a Swiss watch, a lot of characters, a lot of backstory. A lot to keep track of, a lot of kind of interconnected plots and a lot of suspense. And the writer is just handling it all. Like, it's seamless. It's beautifully written. The chapters are short. There's a lot of short chapters. So it's not like you have to go through these long, 20, 30 page chapters. Each chapter is, 4, 5, 6 pages. So you're getting through it pretty quickly. And the writing style, the kind of metaphors and the allusions and the descriptions that he comes up with, you really feel like you're there. I mean, you're on a huge wooden sailing ship in the 1600s, and there is a demon loose on the ship. Like, there's a leper who's wrapped in bandages. There are these mysterious lights on the sea that appear, and you're convinced that there's this other worldly kind of element going on, which is something that I really enjoy in a good sea story. So A+ for Stuart Turton, the author. The other thing that I would tell you is the characters and the plotting of the story. If you like to get really lost and immersed in a story that's from a long time ago, and you want to have your imagination transported to that time, this book does it for you. I can't imagine the research and the work that this author put into this book. I mean, you really do feel like you are there in the 1600s. The people, the way they act towards one another, the kind of the class of society, a little bit of lawlessness, the whole colonial experience of the Dutch running their colony of Batavia in what is currently Jakarta. You get that whole scene and that whole experience there. You also have a lot of backstory that takes place in England and in parts of Amsterdam, and you are, fully immersed in that with these kind of rich people who are being haunted and possessed by this demon, and you are like really experiencing the situation, you know, the way it was at that time through fiction, granted. So I would say those are the two things that I really felt were the most powerful elements, was the author's writing and the intricate plot, and the characters really kind of pulled me through. It truly is a crime thriller, and it sets you up for a lot of surprises. So yeah, I mean, this is up my alley, 100%. I'm all about sea stories and science fiction, and this is sea story with crime and demonology. And I would recommend it, but again, it's not a light, easy reading, light kind of popular book that you would read with a light plot and a fun sort of bouncy couple of hipster characters. This is definitely a deep historical sea story with a lot of crime and demonology. So I'd like to know in the comments if you've read this or not, and if you plan to read it. If you have read it, what did you think of my review? And also, if you want to recommend any other books that you think I might like, put those in the comments there. You can also find me on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram. I'm Malcolm Torres at Sea Stories and Science Fiction. And I also run a podcast where I'm putting out original sea stories and science fiction that I've written myself, and also classic old style sea stories and science fiction. So thanks for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you the next time and meeting up with you out there on the social networks.